Okay, I hereby call the September 16th, 2024 Planning Commission to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Commissioner Shane?
Here.
Commissioner McCabe?
Here.
Commissioner Glenn?
Here.
Commissioner Scoggin?
Here.
Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Here.
And Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Any objections to approving the agenda as written? Hearing and seeing none, the agenda is approved. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Commissioner Allen, would you please lead us?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, on the consent agenda tonight, we have the minutes from the regular meeting minutes of August 19th, 2024. And we have an introduction for public hearing legislative matters. Resolution 24-28, a resolution of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Planning Commission recommending adoption of the fiscal year 2026 Capital Improvement Program, the SIP. Staff Rodney Fodge, Long Range Planner. Are there any additions or changes to the consent agenda? Any objections to approving the consent agenda as written? Okay, hearing and seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. Okay, at this time, we'll move to audience participation. Members of the audience may speak regarding any topic that is not on the agenda for public hearing. If anyone's on the phone and wish to speak, press star 3. And I would ask if there's, when you do begin, to please state your full name and spell your last name for the record. Is there anyone on the phone? Okay, is there anyone in the audience? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, is there any objection to closing audience participation? All right, audience participation is closed. All right, first order of business then is our public hearing for legislative matters. Resolution 24-21, resolution of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Planning Commission recommending adoption of processes for community councils to develop a community comprehensive plan or special land use district. Staff, Julie Spackman, the Long Range Planner. Go ahead and you may proceed.
Good evening, commissioners, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Julie Spackman. I am a long range planner with the Borough Planning Department. In May of 2024, the Assembly passed Resolution 24052, directing staff to assist the South Knik River Community Council in developing a special land use district, also known as a SPUD. The Planning Department determined that the 2009 guidelines for developing community-based comprehensive plan, or a SPUD, were outdated and needed revision. Staff developed a new process with 3 different levels of borough staff support during the drafting of a plan or a SPUD. So regardless of the community engagement process used to draft the document, which are those 3 levels that I'll talk about in a moment, the Assembly is the sole authority that can adopt a plan or a SPUD. So the 3 levels of staff support apply to the drafting of the document. I'm going to start with option 3. Option 3 allows a community council to request the Assembly create an official borough board to draft the SPUD or the plan with members appointed by the mayor. That's option 3. Option 1 and 2 keep the process under the community council using their bylaws and in accordance with the Open Meetings Act to guide the process to draft the SPUD or the plan. Both of these options require the Community Council to obtain sponsorship of the SPUD or plan from an assembly member or the mayor. The difference between option 1 and 2 is the level of service provided by borough staff. In option 1, the Community Council takes on the drafting of the SPUD or the plan pretty much themselves. They can convene and write the draft themselves, and they can reach out for staff assistance when they have specific questions, but basically their choice would be that they mostly want to do it on their own, and they might just raise their hand for some technical assistance here or there. Option 2, the Community Council actually outlines what level of service they want from borough staff while they're drafting the plan or the SPUD, and the resolution that they submit would request staff support and describe the staffing needs so that the Planning Commission and the Assembly have a better sense of the amount of staff time that it would be required to assist. The staff role could be to simply attend those meetings with the Community Council to draft the document, providing technical assistance in real time. But it could be that the Community Council could request that borough staff help with facilitation of the meetings or delivering presentations on topics related to the plan or the SPUD, taking notes, providing meeting space. It would be up to the Community Council to determine and to communicate with the borough what they would want from staff in terms of support. In both option 2 and 3, the planning staff would take the ideas that have been generated by the community participation, either under the Community Council's process or by the appointed board, and the staff would write up the plan based on that community process. For all 3 options, once the draft is written, the draft would be made available on the borough website. A general notice requesting comment on the draft would be sent to all property owners and registered voters if a list is available, and that would be for population in the impacted area. Announcements would be made using the borough's electronic media sources. Staff would compile all written public comment and provide it to the Community Council or the board, and then the council or the board would make revisions based on public comment. So once the draft is revised based on the comments, then it would go before the Planning Commission and the Assembly like any other type of land use or community comprehensive plan process, where the Planning Commission would consider it and determine what type of recommendation to bring forward to the Assembly, but then the Assembly has the sole authority to approve the document, whether it be the Community Comprehensive Plan or the SPUD. So that kind of outlines the 3 options. There's some similarities in terms of it coming to the Planning Commission and the Assembly at the end, but the drafting process would either happen under the Community Council or it would be a board appointed by the mayor, and it would be up to the council to decide which of the options they would like to use during the drafting of the document. So if anybody has any questions, I will try to answer those.
Any questions? Okay. No questions then. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's it. All right, so at this time, we're going to open the public hearing on Resolution 24-21. If anyone's on the phone who wish to speak, please press *3. And when you begin to speak, please state your full name, spell your last name for the record. And we have one, so go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Chad Emsweiler, spelled C-H-A-D, last name E-M-S-W-I-L-E-R. I've been an Alaskan resident for over 20 years. I've raised my kids here. I'm a Kinnick resident, veteran, and business owner. I co-own Alpha Aviation, Alaska Glacier Lodge, and Alaska Helicopter Tours. My life's effort has been resources have been invested in this valley, and it's a special place. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to go through this. The 200,000 acre property surrounding the Connecticut River Road was designated by late Frank Murkowski in 2006 as a Connecticut River public use area, specifically designated for public recreation and promotes Alaskan tourism. This community council is trying to limit that through the use of this spud. In recent community council meetings, they've taken away the right of the property owners as well as the business owners to vote. So if you go with option 1 or 2 in this process, you are basically letting the community council decide what happens to all of the property owners and businesses. In your bylaws, it talks about mailing out, or in your agreement, it talks about mailing out mailers to property owners and the people affected by it, but there's really no way for us to influence this unless you listen to our comments, because the Connecticut River Community Council has not. The leaders of that community council are 2 family members, they're couples that run it, that live in close proximity to the lodge. There's a lot of backstory on what's actually happening out there and what the purpose of their doing, trying to limit helicopter operations and tourism through harassment and other things. So if you go with anything other than the third option, which is a borough-appointed committee to do this, the leadership of the community council will basically be able to weaponize their agenda against the rest of us. Since taking ownership, I've had guns fired in the air when our helicopters are nearby to show their disapproval. I have them with drums in the woods beating to try and harass our guests. Dogs let loose on the property. I recently have a demand letter for $700,000 based on noise and other damages that they're trying to do. This is from the leaders of the community council. They're trying to pull this spud into actionable items to come against us as business owners in that valley and weaponize this process. So I tell you all this to give you context on what's behind all these things. So whether it's the South Connecticut River Community Council being able to pick their own rules or not, you guys are elected officials in the Planning Commission, and we trust you in that. You're put in position because of your reasonableness. Putting this into the hands of people that they've opposed the road being paved until we talked to the Senate, or excuse me, the legislature in Juneau to get the road paved. They tried to stop buses on the road until we told them that if you try and stop our tour buses, that means your kids can't go to school either. This is a very anti-growth, anti-Alaskan mentality that comes from this community council. So, and also to my knowledge, I heard the dinger. Does that mean I'm done talking?
You can finish up. Go ahead.
Okay. I basically would hate to see the self-serving agenda weaponized further, and I urge that if the spud is to move forward, it would be through the borough, through the mayor, and people that have been elected that have a reasonable mindset and understand the value of business and that it brings to the Alaskan economy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else on the phone? Okay. Is there anyone on our sign-up sheet? Do we have a sign-up sheet? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Come on up. State your name and spell your last name, please.
My name is Christian Chivetta, C-H-I-A, V as in Victor, E-T-T-A.
Stand by a second. And I'm going to need you to spell that again, please.
Christian Chivetta, C-H-I-A, V as in Victor, E-T-T-A.
That's Christian.
Chris.
Chris. Okay.
A lot
got
less
it.
contentious this time, huh? Alrighty. So I have 2 issues with what's being proposed today. The first issue is that, as you're well aware, there's already a spud that's in process. And to me, it seems very unfair that all the people of the South Connecticut River Valley that were contacted about the spud being created were told that, hey, we're going to look at the spud and we're going to have community involvement. We're going to have a coalition of people that create this document together. However, 2 of the 3 options, as you heard earlier, to not have a coalition of people is done completely by the South Connect Council if this is adopted. So I don't believe it's right or equitable for you to change this process while there's still an outstanding SPUD trying to be created. If it is changed today, then I personally think the Assembly needs to go back and revote whether or not it should proceed as planned under these new rules or regulations. Basically, I question, does the Assembly, would they have voted yes for the council to proceed if they knew that this was going to take place? How would they have looked at it differently at that point? They didn't have all the information when they made that vote. My second issue is with the wording of option 1 and 2. Community council conducts outreach to the property owners and residents within its boundaries regarding the initiation and progress associated with creating a SPUD. What defines outreach? According to the South Connect Community Council, outreach consists of, oh, you signed up for our mailing list, you should be getting our emails. Oh, you should be coming to our meetings on Thursday night. I got graduate school on Thursday night, I can't come to the meetings, it's impossible. So their definition of outreach is markedly different than what the borough believes outreach is. Having something online, being able to phone in questions, and whatnot. So, something as simple as mailers could be sent out to the entire community. As an opposition to the council and the SPUD at this point, I've already researched, it's $300, which is less than 1% of what their current bank account is, according to state records. So they could done a lot better job doing community outreach and getting everybody involved and getting everybody's input. I had something else to say, but I made the font way too small again. I keep doing that. But I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, is Marshall Alexander? Come on up and state your name, please.
Okay, Marshall Alexander, Alexander. Good evening. My name is Marshall Alexander. I'm a resident of Alaska and Chief Financial Officer for the Alaska Glacier Lodge and Alaska Helicopter Tours. This SPUD must have input from businesses and property owners. During my time, I've witnessed the family members that lead the community council come after our company time and time again. They've tried to weaponize the Federal Aviation Administration, the Bureau of Land Management, the DEC, the Army Corps of Engineers, and even the Native Corporation, all to no avail. They hold private meetings in a community council building, which we cannot attend, to defame our companies and plot methods to harass and extort. The president and secretary sent us a demand letter for over $700,000 based on overblown assertions and hyperbole. After being unsuccessful, they're trying to use this SPUD as an attempt to punish our businesses. This SPUD was originally sold on the fact that property owners and businesses, as well as residents, would have a say. This would allow some balance to the proposed regulations. If you let the community council draft this without our involvement, this will allow a nonprofit, non-governmental entity to punish our companies on which they have failed extortion efforts. This community council is anti-Alaskan, as they proposed the paving of the Knik River Road, even though the Department of Transportation, along with help of the Senate, helped to get that done. Take a couple of things out here, but basically the leaders are trying to block everyone from enjoying this Knik River public use area that is specifically designated by Senate legislator for Alaskans to recreate and enjoy. Please do not let this SPUD be designed and led by a few family members running a nonprofit, but rather also with the input of the property owners and businesses that pay the taxes, employ the Alaskans, and embody the Alaskan spirit of freedom, recreation, and responsibility. Alaska Glacier Lodge and its associated companies help generate over hundreds of thousands of dollars in property tax and bed taxes for the borough and pay millions of dollars in payroll to the valley residents. We employ over 60 people year-round and over 150 seasonally. We participate in the community cleanup, donate thousands to valley-based nonprofits, and fly members of the community for free during our community open house. We want people to see Alaska grow in freedom and economy. This is in direct contradiction to the agenda of the few community council leaders that live next to the lodge and don't like our helicopters. We have invested millions in property, infrastructure, and equipment. And if regulations are placed on us that limit existing operations and planned development, I can guarantee, unfortunately, it will lead to costly litigation for everybody involved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Esther Huddleston? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Esther Huddleston, Huddleston. I do not support Resolution 2421. It will grant community councils the authority to create management plans of special use districts. My past experience with management plans of special use districts is the public process is violated. Community councils only include those individuals who support their agenda to be involved in the planning. Many people who are negatively impacted by management plans of special use districts are left out in the planning process. Helicopter tours is grandfathered in, therefore Resolution 2421 won't fix the current issue. There's a resolution that states that community councils are not the arm of the borough, and Resolution 2421 will grant community councils too much power. Community councils will have the power to restrict businesses, which would negatively impact the Matsu Borough economy. Community councils will go above and beyond state and borough regulations with Resolution 2421. We, the people of the Matsu Borough, elected assembly members and a mayor. We didn't elect community councils to govern us. South Connect River already has a management plan which was passed in June 2014, and on pages 45 and 46 in the management plan addresses the aviation tourism issues. In 2007, the Matsu Borough also adopted a regional aviation systems plan. My solution for Connect River Community Council and Alaska Helicopter Tours is to have a meeting with the Matsu Borough, the borough act as a facilitator, and try to find a compromise. Impose fines if the South Connect River Management Plan is being violated if problems aren't corrected. I have another comment which is separate from Resolution 2421. My concern is the MSB 1759 standardized definitions for lake management regulation. The Matsu Borough Lake Management Ordinance was to end fighting over lake usage. Non-motorized lakes were supposed to stay motorized, and non-motorized lake were supposed to stay non-motorized. If you don't like motorized lakes, then visit or buy property off on a non-motorized lake. Certain groups think there needs to be a management plan for every lake, and it's a constant battle for those who enjoy motorized recreation. Please support the existing lake management ordinance and don't amend the ordinance for more lockup regulations. MSB 1759 is to eliminate jet ski usage in lakes for management plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list is, I believe, Jim, and I'm not sure of the last name. Looks like it possibly starts with an N. Is that you?
Glasses, I didn't sign these pretty well. John Nystrom, I'm coming to the
John
speaker. I
Nystrom?
wanted to thank the commissioners for serving.
Before you start, will you please spell your last name for us?
John Nystrom.
Spell it.
N as in nice, Y-S-T-R-O-M.
Thank you for the
John
record.
Nystrom. I guess I'm here to give a little background of the beautiful Connect River Valley. I wandered out there looking for BLM filing land that was offered for homesteading. So I walked out there in 1966, no road, barely any trails, and filed in the spring of 67 in the old Hill building there where BLM was in Anchorage. And I found a place to be so grandeur that I just had to, like I said, homestead 160 acres. But as growth came, some homesteaders that a few still remain, myself as well, we live out there. The road came in 71 and 2, and more development came. But all along, it was that beautiful, incredible glacier, that was the big attraction to those that could either navigate with a little motorboat or such. And then on and on, We've got the pavement. We did have a bit of objection to the pavement for some time, partly because a number of people out there do not want changes to this day. And we've stayed flexible because my parents came to Anchorage in 1931, and there was a lot of bar their door Katie. They didn't want my parents' property on Gamble Street. They didn't want to go up the hill to take the ski hill away. But to talk about the so-called racket out there, we got airboats, we got a lot of aviation out there we've never had before landing on the islands in the river. And I think the lodge has done extremely well for the community, as mentioned before, about employment and about the goodness of tourism. We can't depend totally on oil. We need tourism. And as the figures show how much it brings to this state, we got good pavement out there, got a better road, we got overlay, we can handle buses and vans and all for people to come out to the glacier and enjoy part of Alaska that many people around the world come to see. And I see my time is short, and thank you very much, all of you, for listening to an old homesteader.
Thank you for your time. Okay, Karen Hoffman.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Hoffman, Hoffman. I'm a longtime resident of Alaska and a business owner who has benefited from tourism here. I've fallen in love with the Knik River Valley over the last few years, and I love the freedom and beauty it has to offer every time I drive out there. Unfortunately, I've seen family members that lead and monopolize the community council try to take those freedoms from others as they've come after businesses around here just for their own selfishness. They want freedom for themselves, but then act like big government for the rest of us who just want to be free and live our lives and build our businesses. Just like the politicians in Washington, they misrepresent the truth and spread lies for their own personal gain. They only want this spud to punish businesses, and they aren't allowing the business owners and property owners to have any input. This isn't the first time they've done this. I think that was mentioned earlier with the roads and buses and bikes. The Knik River Valley is beautiful, and everyone should be able to enjoy it, not just their families. All of this has just a big government kind of gross feel to it by the way they're trying to control things and force regulations on businesses now and for future entrepreneurs. I think most of us love Alaska because of the freedoms that we feel here. If a spud is passed, then fine, but everyone should get a say in it, not just a few who are monopolizing the community council and trying to keep people from all that Alaska has to offer. We all pay taxes, and we employ people who pay taxes that benefit the community. Our country, state, and the valley need small businesses to survive. I love sharing Alaska with others and seeing the looks on people's faces when they get to experience it, especially for the first time. I'm asking you to please allow all of us to have a voice with this spud. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wished to speak that wasn't signed up? Come on up. State your name, spell your last name, please.
Hi, my name is Trudy Lorenzen, Lorenzen, and I'd just like to say I'm an employee of the Alaska Tour helicopter tours located at the end of the Knik River Road. For many years, I spent sitting as an employee in an office, never getting out to enjoy the great state of Alaska. For the last couple of years, I have worked out driving the transfer vans back and forth and delivering our tour people that come from all over the world. And the people that I meet and talk to, it just lights up their lives when they go out and they get to see how big these glaciers are. And I think it's very important that people are seeing what does happen to the glaciers also. It does need to be, aware so that we can possibly slow some of the melting of the glaciers. The company out there that I work for, and everyone that works there, we keep the property clean. we are trying to make sure that we're protecting it. We don't want to make anything worse. And I don't know if that's what the homeowners out there are also thinking, is that we're not treating the planet properly, and that is not correct. I mean, we are doing everything we can, and I feel like I'm getting off track because I'm not reading my statement. So I can't imagine my life without this job, having to return to a boring office job. I support the right to operate and have a voice in the decisions that make the business and many livelihoods possible out there. And please just help us keep this from not going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Come on up. Again, please state your name, spell your last name.
Sure. My name is Craig Price, last name Price. Okay. I am the president of the South Connect River Community Council, and heard a lot of things tonight. I came here to comment on the actual process that the Planning Commission is trying to unfold and look at. And I see that they've done a great job. Thank you. I think that it gives community councils flexibility to move forward with any sort of a SPUD or comprehensive plan for what works for that community. And I think that that's commendable that the Planning Commission has done that. The first couple commenters in here, I was really pretty stunned at, but that's because I didn't hear anything that was actually truthful that was said there. There's a lot of hype. There is a divisive business within our community, and that is Alaska Helicopter Tours and the Alaska Glacier Lodge. I understand that they're upset because even though they may be landowners, if they're not residents in that area, that they don't have voting rights at the community council. So what took place on our last meeting was we amended our bylaws in order to get in compliance with the borough. So you have to be a resident of an area in order to vote in an area. No one is trying to take away anybody's voice. We are out there and we advertise every time we have a community council meeting that what is coming up. Anyone who is has signed up for our emails gets our emails about updates about what's going on in the community. Beyond that, recently the one volunteer came forward and put a lot of time into creating a website for the South Connect River Community Council. It's not a social media site, though. We've seen what social media is and how inaccurate and how damaging it can actually be. This is purely for information for the community. Anyone that resides in that area is allowed to come and vote, is allowed to say whatever they want to say about the special use district. There is no special use district process in place at this time beyond the council voted, the community voted to go forward to allocate resources within the borough to explore a special use district in the South Connect River Community Council area. That's it. That's all that's happened to date. So thank you for your time. Great job, by the way, on the folks that worked on the different aspects too, or the different choices within the SPUD process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Come on up.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Amy Reed, R-E-A-D, and along with Mr. Nystrom, our family also homesteaded about the same time. And I think there's just a lot of a misunderstanding about of the South Connect River community wanting to go forward with a SPUD. It is so everybody has a voice, because what we have learned from living out there is that we have no voice as residents in that community. We have no say in how our community grows, how our lifestyles are affected. So it really, the whole purpose behind it is so that everybody can have a voice and everybody can work together to have some voice in how change does occur, because it does change out there. It's changed tremendously, because just like everybody has said, it's an incredible place. It's a beautiful place. People love to come there. And my mother has hosted many hunters coming down off the mountains over the last 50 years. So, we haven't thrown out visitors and not wanted visitors. It's just really important to have a process so that everybody can have a voice. So thank you for all of your work to help communities maybe have a say and have a process so that all members of the community can be a part of it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, is there anyone else on the phone? All right. Julie, would you like to say anything else? All right. Okay, then, hearing and seeing nothing, or no other persons to be heard, and if there's no objection to close the public hearing, public hearing is then closed. Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 24-21.
Commissioner McCabe, I'll move Resolution 24-21.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Scoggins, I'll second the motion. 24-21.
Okay, so Commissioner McCabe made a motion for Resolution 24-21 with a second by Commissioner Scoggins. Okay, any discussion?
This Commissioner Allen, can I ask the staff a question? Is it
Yes.
okay to still do that?
Yes.
I might have missed it in the back, and I apologize if I did, but can you tell me when the lodge was built and then when helicopter tours began?
No, actually, I can't. That wasn't part of this. This resolution is focused just on the process.
On the
and
process,
so I
okay.
didn't do that research.
Okay, thank you.
Apologize.
If you could stay, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Commissioner Shane, I have a question for staff as well. When it comes to community councils, I am curious, is it standard for community councils to remove the ability for landowners to be a part of it? Because something that I guess is difficult for me is hearing that there's community council and the only ones that they're allowing to participate in it is the people who are residents, whether you're a resident or not. You're a part of the community when you have either business or other things in that area. So it just seems odd to me that is that normal for community councils? Do you have the information for that by chance?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Thanks. My understanding is the borough code is what determines the voting within that community council, and maybe Mr. Strong can help me out with the citation, but I believe in the definition of a community council, the people participating in the council must be residents, and he's pulling that up, I believe.
Is
Yes.
it the pleasure of the chair to have me look this up
Yes,
in Borough
please.
Code? Okay, you got it.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Residents and groups.
So, through the chair, Alex Strawn, Planning Director for the borough, I'm looking at 2.76030A1. It's really just A. Community councils are nonprofit, voluntary, self-governing associations composed of residents located within geographical areas designated as community council districts by the Assembly. Residents means a person who is qualified to vote or to register to vote under the laws of the state of Alaska and borough ordinances. So it does appear that this is sort of backed up by borough law. I would like to provide some additional comment, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I mean, this procedure essentially was written because of the South Kinnick River Community Council getting the go-ahead to develop a SPUD by the Assembly and for us to develop resources. I will say that this is not only for the South Kinnick River Community Council. This would apply to all communities within the borough. Right now, there is no member of the planning department who has worked with the community to develop a special use district or a comprehensive plan. And when the South Kinnick River Community Council requested a SPUD, we thought it was important to have a process in place. I do not believe that this policy gives any additional power to the community councils. They already are able to produce.
Sorry.
That's okay. The Meadow Lakes Community Council, for instance, hired a contractor. They actually hired an engineering firm to draft a SPUD for them, which they eventually brought forward to the borough. So this is really just creating a process so that there's less confusion on how a community can go forward to develop a SPUD. So that's my 2 cents. Yep.
Okay. Did you have any other questions with that?
No, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Commissioner Glenn, so Alex, if you're registered to vote in the state of Alaska, you can vote at that community council meeting. Is that correct? That's what I'm reading here.
So, but if you look at, residents located within geographical areas designated as community council districts.
Then you go to number 2, it says residents means a person who is qualified to vote or register to vote under the laws of the state of Alaska.
Correct.
And the borough ordinance. So what exactly does that mean?
I see you looking at the attorney. I'd love to.
So you have to read them together. So you have the residents and then the definition of what that resident is. So the residents are those who are registered to, qualified to vote or registered that live within that geographical area designated as the community council. So it's not, I can't go vote in an area that I do not live in and participate in those community councils.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I guess I have a question then. So when we get these lake management plans in front of us, no matter where you live, you get a vote for each piece of parcel on your property. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So you can live in Arkansas and vote 7 times. So, but yet on the community council, you own property and a business there and you can't vote at all. So I think there's some cleanup needs to be done here, and the SPUD probably should put on the shelf for a while. It doesn't seem like we're ready to be rolling this out at all, to me. This is given, I don't think we need more laws, rules, and regulations. I think they should be coming through the borough. So everywhere you go out, and every one of these community councils got a different set of rules and regulations. Who are you supposed to contact if you want to do business there? How would you know? I think it needs to kind of become central back here to the borough. I don't like this at all, to be honest with you.
Commissioner Glenn, I second that exactly. Commissioner Scoggins' comments. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Commissioners, how do you fellows feel about the option 3? Or do you just think the whole premise is bad? Just curious.
I think based on my own community council, it's a small group of people making a lot of decisions that I don't know, I can only speak to one community council that I've ever gone to before, but I think it's a small group of people making decisions. And then what I've seen in my own community council, years ago, they brought a SPUD in. It went from 15 to 20 people at a community council meeting to the elementary school gym full, and the state troopers are there as crowd control. That's how out of hand it got, because they were trying to cram this down the community's throat. So I think, unfortunately, the community council is probably a good thing, but it's a small group. When we hear that we got the whole backing in the community council, I go to my community council meetings, they'll have, okay, we got the whole backing, and then it comes over here to us. Well, that's like 12 or 15 people out of several thousand people. They're just, and that's, we can't all get out every time, you know, and nobody can go out on the Wednesdays or Thursday nights or whatever it is. They've just got so many things going on. And so often there's not a lot of business being there, but sometimes there is. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of giving a lot of authority to community council, I guess, personally.
Commissioner Shane, part of me does have to agree with Commissioner Scoggins. You know, some of the things he's saying. Like, my thing is if a community council is created, then everyone who is affected or is a part of that community should have a seat at the table. Everyone there is affected by, you know, what they decide, you know, what should be done, what shouldn't be done. So to say that only people who are living there, but there's also people who have major investments in those areas that bring investments, whether it's to the borough or to the state or to whatever, they should all have a seat at the table, in my opinion. So I don't know if there's a way that, I mean, I don't think that could be figured out tonight, given the fact that it appears that is the standard for all our community councils. And I just want to say to the Connect Community Council, like, they're following what our guidelines are, but it seems that our guidelines have some issues.
Go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I will say, right now, there are essentially no guidelines. Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all. There's no good guidelines for a community to navigate through the SPUD development process. I will say option 3, I'm just going to recap it just a little bit here. It would be a board that would be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the assembly. That would consist of 2 members from the community councils requesting the plan or SPUD, 3 property owners representing distinctly different geographic areas of the impacted council area, 2 business owners within the impacted council boundaries, 4 at-large members from within the impacted council boundaries. So in option number 3, it does take away the full ability of the community council to develop a SPUD, and gives it to an official borough board that would then feed recommendations to the assembly, much like the Water Body Setback Advisory Board. So that's just clarify what's in option 3.
Go ahead.
Alex, real quick, you said 3 property owners, 3 business owners. How does that go back with they're not, it's not part of the community council now, right? So you can bring in business owners, property owners that aren't members of the community council. I'm understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so option 3 could be anybody that the mayor appoints. They would not, so it does have guidelines for what the mayor would appoint, like 2 business owners within the impacted council boundaries. But the mayor would have flexibility in that. It's a very, the mayor does have discretion on who they put on that board. But the guidelines would be that there'd be 2 business owners within the council boundary.
And the community council will have some say in this as well.
So there would be
Still.
2 members from the community council.
Okay. So I don't want to leave anybody out.
Right.
So
Yeah, we tried to create a balanced. Yeah.
So, Alex, so that, Commissioner Glenn, so that's choice number 3, correct?
That's correct. Now, to be fair, even if this gets adopted right here, at any point, an assembly member can come to me and say, hey, Alex, I want you to write a special use district for this area. And I would write it and bring it to the planning commission, the assembly, and there it would be. There doesn't have to be one of these processes. We were just trying to create some framework for the community to navigate through this process.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking. So, are we having, so are we getting clobbered from any other areas? I mean, and I lived until July the 4th, straight across from the reindeer farm. I had thousands and thousands of cars literally every year parked in my driveway, turning around to my driveway, and good. They were over across the street spending money, right? And the traffic out there has gone around the Bodenberg. It is unbelievable. So we recently sold our house to our son who can deal, younger son, he can deal with the noise. We moved. That's our choice. And, you know, it's growth. That's what it is. And we've got tons of airplanes and, you know, we're looking at a control tower at the Palmer Airport now, and that is definitely in motion. That's how much air traffic is in Palmer. And I'm not hearing anybody squawking about that. I'm an aircraft operator out of the Palmer Airport, and I'm not hearing, you know, we got tons of helicopters coming and going, and I find it interesting that there's so much flack flying up from the Connect River community. And I drive up and drive, you know, recently to the end of the road up there and looked, and I mean, this place is spectacular. They have a beautiful lodge. Their helicopters look great. I personally don't know these people, but it's a nice looking operation. It's bringing millions and millions of dollars. It's a big show that they've got. It's bringing millions of dollars into this community. So I have a problem with somebody attacking them over noise.
Anybody else? Okay, I have a question. You said that previously, or without any framework, the SPUD is basically given to the community council to just put together?
So, yeah, right now there's just not a clear process. And so I think the way it's been done in the past, generally speaking, is when a community council requests a special use district, then the planning department sends, you know, they dedicate a staff member to work with that community to form a separate board that is chosen by the community council, that is representative of the community. It's sort of like, almost like a subcommittee, but not really. It's a different committee that makes recommendations, then ultimately goes back to the community council. There's generally some public outreach, then it goes to the planning commission, to the assembly, and that's where it ends.
And the assembly makes the final call?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, and I apologize, I did ask for that motion a little out of turn, but it is on the table. So we have a motion, actually, motion on the floor. So with that, okay, I have confusion on the motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could I ask one question? Like, are we voting for 1, 2, or 3?
That was my question as well.
So you're voting for Planning Commission Resolution 24-21, which has a lot of whereases supporting this, and ultimately it says, now therefore be it resolved that the Matsu Borough Commission, Planning Commission hereby recommends Assembly adoption of resolution outlining the new community council process for developing a community comprehensive plan or special use district. So you're essentially supporting this, this memo or this process with the 3 different options. You're certainly welcome to amend that. If you want to only recommend option 3, that's an option.
Okay. So are there any more discussions with this now that we know that a little more?
I think we do need to have a little more discussion about that.
Okay.
Because based on what I've heard now and what I've read here, if we are to support this, I mean, I would want to have it clarified that we are supporting option 3 to me. Because I do think that option 1 and 2 could be very detrimental to the expansion of business out there. And I think that would be harmful. And option 3, I think, makes some sense. It would make sure that all of the interests that are represented in that area would have a voice to me. And so, I just, I think we have to remember that Alaska has over half the world's glaciers, right? It's a really big deal that we have these things that we can drive up to them. When we were hosting all these people from around the world for the Arctic Winter Games, I had lots of conversations with people from, Greenland and remote parts of Canada and Sweden and stuff, and they could not believe that we had glaciers still that we could access and enjoy their beauty. And I think that's just a really special thing. And I think the fact that we can show that to people from around the world is a really good thing. And I would hate to have us, put the brakes on that. So if we are going to support this, I would want it to be explicit that we're supporting option 3. Thanks.
Is that an amendment?
I just
Commissioner Fernandez, Chair, I second what Commissioner Allen just said
support it all.
in its entirety.
Hold on, Commissioner Fernandez, just a second. I'm sorry, Commissioner Allen.
I just wanted to throw out there for a little more discussion. Because
no
I think,
amendment
I
yet?
think the question might be, some folks may not want to support it at all, which is, I think, a legitimate point too. So we should just sort of talk about it a little more, I think.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Fernandez.
Yeah, I was just supporting, forgive me, I've lost my voice quite a bit, but I was supporting Commissioner Allen in his statements. I fully endorse what you just said in its entirety. It was my statement.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. How many spuds are currently in the process of being completed?
Just the one. We are currently working on one special use district, and we haven't really started with that community because we're hoping to get this through so that they have clarity on what the process is.
Any other
I
questions?
thought that there was one by the Talkeetna, Denali area, a spud. The horse riding stable.
Oh, so we have several special use districts throughout the borough that are already
Wasn't
in
that the
place.
question, how many we have in place?
Yes.
Oh, I
How
thought
many-
you were wondering how many we're working on currently.
No, how many we're working on currently? How many that are not approved and in action? Okay, that's
Just
what
one.
my thought is, just the one.
Yes.
Okay, because I don't, we should be considering if we want to change something when the process has already started, correct? So that was my thought process on that. Okay,
Commissioner Cohn?
yes.
I just have a comment. If it's not broken, why fix it? I mean, it seems like we've had the ability to get spuds through using a non-existing process, and it's worked, right? So the reason that it's being implemented now is just for this one?
So there was a SPUD process developed by the planning department, I believe in 2009. When we put forward a resolution for the assembly to consider to kick off the South Connect River Community Council, we looked at old resolutions and they referenced this 2009 process. It wasn't a good process. It was flawed. And so we recommended that they amend their resolution to not include that. And let them know we would come forward with a new one. And that's where we're at right now. And I would say that the process that has been in place that has gone before has not been without flaws. There's been a lot of staff time developing special use districts that have gone to waste because those special use districts went down in a ball of flames at the last minute. And we have a few different examples where that happened, as well as comprehensive plans. So it can be a tremendous waste of time to work on a special use district if it's not done appropriately.
Any other questions? So do you believe this process will reduce that time?
I believe this process provides clarity. I think if this doesn't get adopted, options 1 and 2, well, especially option 1, is still an option if they have support from an assembly member. If a community council says we want a special use district, and here's how we want it to read, and they get the ear of a assembly member, that assembly member can bring that forward. This just, I guess, puts it in the forefront, like when they're starting their process, that they know what we think the best options are.
Go ahead, Commissioner Shane.
Yeah, Commissioner Shane, Two things. One, I would like to make sure that it's clear, I guess, that I believe that community councils should have a voice as to how their community is affected. My community where I live and where I had lived before had been affected by different things, and it was kind of a bummer deal for us, right? So I think it's important for folks to have a voice. I just want to ensure that everyone has a seat at the table, which I think option 3 does. 2, I'm a big fan of anything that we can do to promote efficiency for staff, for the borough, where we can take these issues that are going to continue to come up. We're going to continue to see spuds and things like that. And so if there is a clear process that ensures that everyone has a seat at the table, which it looks to me, after looking at option 3 a little closer, does, and also reduces, I guess, hangups on getting these spuds through, I think that's a good deal. So.
Any other questions? Okay, and I have one other last question for me, and pardon my ignorance on this. If one of these is developed, does this go in an actual ordinance? If the assembly, where does it go?
So, so this could have been just a internal department procedure that we
Yep.
just drew up and said, this is our procedure, and if you want to do a spud, here's what we're going to do. But because we really wanted to hear from the public, we wanted to hear from the assembly and make sure that, and the planning commission, and just make sure everybody's on the same page that this is what the process is. And so I don't think is a resolution that we're bringing forward to the assembly. If once it gets through here, it'll go as in a form of resolution saying that this is the process.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think I'd like to make an amendment then.
Okay.
An amendment. Would be in the last, so now therefore be it resolved, resolution outlining the new community council process outlined in, how should we word this, Alex? Outlined in option 3 of, or you can just plug it in there.
So, I don't know if you want to read that, and I'll make it a little bit bigger here. So I think might be what you're looking for. It would read, now therefore be resolved that the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Planning Commission hereby recommends assembly adoption of option 3 of a resolution outlining the new community council process for developing a community council. Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's simple and straightforward. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the amendment needs a second.
Commissioner Shane, I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Commissioner Glenn, so this is to Rick and Andrew both. This is going to encapsulate that everybody's got a say at the table here, right?
Yes, sir. That's the idea. Just based on what Alex said, you'd have the business interests represented, you'd have community council represented, you'd have at-large citizens represented, who lived in different geographic parts of the area.
So we have non-resident property owners that are out there as well.
Potentially you would. I mean, you could have business owners that don't live here 12 months of the year, or they live in a different part of
Correct.
Alaska.
Yeah.
I think that's possible.
So this is option number 3. This is what we're going to, okay.
Correct. They would also be mayor appointed. Correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Those positions would be appointed by the mayor.
That's correct.
Can I
Yep.
weigh in? I do want just to be clear. So the South Connecticut River Community Council is a very large geographic area. It's very controversial. It has business interests and all sorts of different things. Spuds can be actually very small. Like, realize it's not always going to be like that. Some spuds are essentially smaller areas that are residential. They want to protect their residential quality, and they want to essentially adopt like a single-family residential zone over their area. And we have quite a few spuds where different communities have done that. And in that case, this would be using a very large time-consuming tool to accomplish a fairly small thing. So just wanted to point that out.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So you can, let me be clear. So if you have a community council area, you can have a small spud within that? Is that correct, or within
Yeah.
the boundaries, or what
So,
are we looking at?
Yeah, so I'll show you how the code is set up. So we have all these different special use districts, like Glacier View Special Use District, Chickloon Special Use District, Denali State Park Special Use District. And then we have, I'll give you an example of, where is it? Yeah, so single family residential land use district. And within that, there's a list of different communities that are part of this residential land use district, I believe. And essentially it has allowed uses, uses that require permit, and then prohibited uses. So it has like these three different things. And so, I mean, one thing that we have to ask ourselves here is does this apply to just adding a different community to this list? Or does this apply to developing a whole new district itself? And I would say it probably applies to adding the whole new district itself. So maybe I'm going down a rabbit hole that we don't need to go to. We haven't developed a process for a smaller, because this just came to my attention because we had a small community that wanted to zone themselves, a very small community. And we don't really have a process for them doing that either, other than maybe just obtaining a assembly member's approval. So I'm going to take back my comments here because I think that these special use districts are large areas. All of our actual special use districts are large areas. So sorry for taking down that bunny trail.
Okay. Go ahead.
Commissioner Shane, but so with this resolution though, like if we're throwing this out there, is this going to now restrict the ability for other spuds that may be smaller or something, like, because maybe we have some communities or whatever where they're going to request this and it's like, well, we don't have those business owners in our community. We don't have, these people, there's no way for us to even get this going. Cause I don't necessarily want to go down that trail either. Right.
So I think the way our code is set up is you set up a special use district for a large geographic district, which generally follows community council boundaries. Within that, there can be sub-districts, and then smaller areas can fall within one of these like single-family districts or large lot single-family districts or something like that. So from what we have in code right here, development of a new spud is sort of a larger geographic area that would be a special use district. So.
Okay, so what we have on the table is going to be for large areas.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what's on the floor currently is the amendment. So at this time, I would like to, unless there's any more discussion, I'd like to go ahead and vote on the amendment and get back to the main motion. Okay, so let's do a voice vote.
Commissioner Shane?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Glenn?
Yes.
Commissioner Scoggin?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen.
Yes.
The amendment has passed unanimously.
Okay, so the main motion now is on the floor, and the way I understand the motion currently is if we vote for this resolution, only option 3 will be activated or will be recommended to the assembly. And if it is voted down, it goes back to the same process that it's always been, without the standard. Is that correct?
So if you vote this amendment down, it would go back to just the resolution.
We just did the amendment, we're on the main
I'm sorry.
motion.
Yeah, the main motion. Yeah, it would just go back to having nothing,
Okay.
essentially. Yeah.
All right, is there any more discussion? Okay, then let's go ahead and take the vote on the motion for Resolution 24-21 as amended.
Commissioner Shane,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Glenn,
Yes.
Commissioner Scoggin,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen.
No.
The motion has passed with Commissioner Cohen opposed.
Okay. Motion's passed. All right. Moving on. There's no correspondence information, unfinished business, new business, commission business, the upcoming planning commission agenda items. Alex, would you like to take that?
As always, I'm happy to answer any questions you have on upcoming items.
Okay. Doesn't look like it. All right, so we will go to director and commissioner comments. Let's start with Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to just let you guys know that we have had 2 appeals of this board. One was shoreline cannabis, the other one was mountain gravel. Please refrain from any ex parte contact, one possibility is that it could be remanded back to the Planning Commission, so please just stay away from those. Don't talk about those. And then I will say that we received notice today that we are losing one of our planners, Rodney Fodge. He's been working on the capital improvement program and the Fuller Lake Management Plan. He is moving to South Texas, and nothing's going to stop him from going. So we're going to have another vacancy in the planning department.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Shane, we'll go ahead and start with you on comments then.
Well, sorry to hear about loss of another planner. Tell him to pack some sunscreen, and no other comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen.
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Glenn.
No comment, thanks.
Commissioner McCabe.
Happy hunting. Get your moose before the end of the hunting season.
Commissioner Scoggins.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Okay. Good work tonight, and thank you, staff, for all that you guys do. Appreciate it. And sorry to hear that you're losing another one. Okay. With that, we will call this meeting adjourned at 7:14.